my big suggestion to students, particularly through high school, is
you can do anything.
Choose it for you, not for
It is worth
it.
Just focus on the next
Doesn't
step.
matter what you're doing.
Don't be afraid.
As long as you're doing
That
something.
is such good advice.
I don't think I could see myself doing
It's a
anything else.
challenging life.
Student nights, Wednesday to
Oh,
Saturday.
I worked on that house.
I racked up every single dollar of debt that I
I
possibly
think there's
could.
a lot of pressure on high school.
Yeah, I
kids
just
these
love
days, right?
working outside.
And if money is something that you care a lot
In
about,
hindsight, that
I've
was,
also been a very indecisive
But you
person.
keep looking for roads that have been less
it
travelled.
was just that moment that I knew what I wanted to do. So nothing else is going to change that.
Welcome to the guest speaker.
I know you're excited about this, as am I.
Yeah.
Grace has disappeared. Grace, you've got a picture of yourself up there.
Sorry,
What are you
an Italian man just knocked on my door, but I am good now.
doing? An Italian man.
He was like, ding, 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 do you have the Wi-Fi? And I was like, thank you so much. Yes, I do. Thank you. So sorry,
Oh.
none of that.
And don't edit that out, Grace, because that's brilliant. An Italian man knocked on my door. So look, I suppose you've got a special place, Taylor, because when I initially reached out, you said no. And I got a little bit of a shock because I was like, you were one of the ones I targeted. You were this lovely young girl at school who went and did something a little bit different. Well, what I thought was different. And I thought, oh, this will be a great story. And so that was fine. And you said, oh, no, maybe not. I'm not quite ready or something. And then a month or so later, you reached out and you said, look, I've been doing some thinking and I'd like to share my story. So you and I have had a lot of conversations off air, I'll call it off air, and talked about your experience. So just quickly, you've gone Army, then to the Air Force.
Yes.
And today will be very much around your feelings around both of those, your experiences, the things you thought worked for you, the things you didn't, and hopefully some advice for kids, Army and Air Force. So I think this is a really good opportunity for us. So quickly, I'm just going to take you back to some school stuff, just so people get a feel of you as a kid. You're going to reflect for us a little bit later on your thoughts about school, but you got endorsements in mathematics, science advanced, biology, chemistry, physical education, geography advanced. Your record of learning was littered with distinctions and diligence awards. So there was also this idea that teachers just loved having you. So on the face of it, school looked a successful place. The world was your oyster. I don't know whether you felt like that or whether that was something you'd considered, but hence why I thought for you, the Army was like, oh, wow, like, because you could have done anything, which is cool.
Yeah.
You supported our homeroom or whare tōtoko while you're at school. You went to the middle school. You, in the end, got a gold SVA. So you were one of these kids who contributed a lot back to others, back to the community, and particularly back to other kids. So again, it paints a little picture of you. When we finished talking recently, you explained what you'd dealt with, and I was left thinking three things. Now, here's a young woman who should be leading and guiding others, was my first thought. My second one was, here's someone who has a strong moral compass and is a strong advocate for the Defence Force, both Army and the Air Force. And most important, here's someone who respects hierarchy, but not over common decency and professionalism. So that was sort of where I had left those conversations thinking, this is where I'm at with you as a human. I'm led to believe the Defence Force is lucky to have you. And as you ride through the ranks and I hope become, all powerful, I'm sure you'll make a real difference with them, and you'll help them achieve their goals of increasing female participation. And this is what I'd like the audience to realise today, that there is this goal they have in mind of getting females into the Defence Force. And at the moment, the Army is at 15% female, and it is the least of all. So then it goes Navy 27.5, the Air Force 24. Despite some really concerted efforts, they've remained rather stagnant. So that's why today is really important that we get this right, that you're able to advocate, that you're able to share this experience, because there will be kids and there will be females literally not press send or apply for the fear of thinking they're one of very few. So it's important. So the New Zealand Army, through the New Zealand Defence Force, has a Wahine Toa program, and they're trying lots of things: recruitment and media, female role models, inclusive recruitment and progression models. And I was interested in and adopting the UN women's empowerment principles. So there is a lot of thought, there is a lot of backroom, boardroom. What do we do? And here you sit here today, and what a wonderful opportunity. So who's this for? I pitched today. It's going to be for a lot of people. First one will be, I believe, your employer, who always seeks feedback, who some of them, and I know you've got great friends and superiors that you're going to even maybe watch this first with them and go, hey, how did I go? So I think there'll be one set of people who will be interested. I think young people considering either the Army or Air Force, you'll really hit with. Students looking for a career path that's rich and varied in qualifications. And also for strong young women who want to play their part, become a minority in number, but not an impact. So that's where I see you. I'd say welcome and thank you for finally saying yes to me. And the chats we've had recently have been really cool, and I can't wait for this. So Taylor, please take me back. I painted a picture, a rosy one, of school. How did you find school, so kids sitting there can go, okay, where do I sit?
I would say that school came really easy to me. Like studying, I always studied, but I didn't have to study extremely hard to get okay marks. I didn't really do much in my own time. It was like I go to school to socialize. I learnt really fast, and then I kind of just went home and did whatever I wanted at home. But then got to year 12 and I actually had to start putting in work. And then got to year 13. I've studied really hard in year 12, got to year 13, and I was like, I don't know if I want to study this hard for the next couple of years for a career I'm not certain I want to go into. I wasn't sure what path I wanted to do. So I was like, I'll go get some life experience first, and then I'll decide what I want to study and then go do that afterwards.
So
But
was at
school,
that point, Taylor, so was at that point you were indicating the continued study was why you weren't going tertiary? You were sort of
yeah,
over this learning thing. I need time out. Is that right?
yeah, pretty much. I was like, I could either take a gap year or I could go do something for a year, see if I enjoy it. And if I do enjoy it, you can study through the Defence Force. So I was like, oh, well, that's like kind of killing two birds with one stone. So that's what kind of led me to the Defence Force. I just didn't want to commit to studying for so long on something I was so unsure about.
So you left straight
Yeah.
so you were sitting in year 13 and you applied for the Defence Force. Is that right? And how did that process go? And how did you find someone to sit with? How does a kid go from school to Defence Force? Because I don't know.
My friend group, they were all applying for scholarships, I think, in like August, September, kind of in the last year of high school. And I was sitting there and I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to apply for a scholarship. I don't want to go to uni. So then I started researching how to apply for the Defence Force, and I kind of just did it by myself. I kind of just looked up online and they were like, oh, apply now. And I was like, oh, okay. And I just followed my track. I ended up getting denied initially. They said that my eyesight was too bad and they were like, oh, you're not able to come in, sorry. And I was like, oh, well, that's silly, I'm just gonna reapply. So I just reapplied and they were like, oh yeah, we'll have you this time round. And I was like, oh, perfect, it's meant to be. And so yeah, I think I started applying in August, got denied maybe October, reapplied in November, and then on February is when I first started basic training in 2020.
So you're indicating any kid anywhere in the country can sit behind a laptop, type in Defence Force, find an application form, and off they go.
Quite literally, yeah. I didn't even research trades or jobs within the Defence Force. I very naively still thought they had horses. And I was like, it got into my interview and they were like, oh, do you have any idea what trade you want to do? And I was like, yeah, I would really, really like to work with the horses. And he was like, sorry, we're just going to have to pause the interview. Pause the interview. And he was like, there's no horses. And then he was like, oh, do you have any other backup plans? I was like, well, no, not really. And then, yeah, he was the one that kind of led me into my job that I ended up going into, which was a movements operator.
This is embarrassing, isn't it? Because it's like, so what, you just had seen some movies where what army people had fought
Yeah,
on
and I
horse.
read
Where did you get?
I read the book War Horse and I was like, oh, that's really cool. Saw like a couple of parades with the horses marching around, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go train that horse.
Brilliant.
There
Brilliant.
was not much thought behind it. It was kind of just on a whim, and yeah, it ended up being a pretty solid career, I would say. But to date anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so okay, you apply, you get in. What's the process then? What's your initial introduction, and how did that go, and how did that pan out?
So I caught a bus in Hamilton, said goodbye to my family, and went down to Wairau for supposedly 16 weeks. But my basic was kind of a little bit odd compared to everyone else's. It was over the first COVID lockdown. So then we didn't have our phones, and our house sergeant came in, formed us all up in the corridor. We're all standing there, and he was like, "Oh, this afternoon you're all going to get your phones. Everyone's been locked to their houses." And I was like, damn, this is a really good mind game. Like, I knew they would play mind games, but I didn't realize they would tell me my parents are locked in their home and they can't leave. No one can go to work, no one can do the jobs. And I kind of just didn't believe it for ages. Got my phone that evening, called home, and they're like, no, seriously, no one's allowed to leave their house. It is lockdown. And so our basic training, they decided to put us all into our own COVID bubble, but we weren't allowed to conduct half of the field exes. So then our basic got extended to 21 weeks instead of the 16, which was quite a while to be in the basic training mindset. But it was an experience. I think the 16 weeks would have been long enough. The 21 weeks really dragged on.
And how did you find basic training? What did you learn, or what did you experience? Because we have heard from Brianna, if people want to go back onto our other podcast, who did the basic, I presume, in the Air Force, which is where you're going to end up. But what was the basic like in the Army?
It's very different to the Air Force one. It's a lot more combat orientated. We do certain field X's. We do 2 field X's and then an urban phase as well, which is learning how to clear urban environments, which is actually really cool. I'm not very good at it. I got pulled aside by my section commander because I was the first into a room to clear it, and there was a target that looked too human. And I turned around and ran out the door, and I was like, "Building not clear, don't go in." And he was like, "Why don't you shoot the enemy?" And I was like, "I can't do it. It's a person at the end of the day. Like, my life's not worth anything more than theirs." And he was like, "Can I just ask why you joined?" And I was like, "I joined for logistics, not to shoot people." But yeah, it's a lot more, I wouldn't say more physical. I'd say the Air Force recruit course is just as physical, but ours is a lot more weapons orientated and a lot more surviving in a field environment, just off your pack and what you can carry around.
So I think Brianna made this quite clear in the Air Force thing. She wasn't as competent with a gun. It wasn't combat orientated. So here's a key differential you're saying to kids is, if they're more like you, maybe the Air Force even initially was probably, or Navy might have been better.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Navy's different. But the Army, very combat heavy. Maybe that's where the male-female differential is, the physicality, the weaponry, the fighting, do you think?
Yeah, we learned close quarter combat, which I kind of enjoyed because I did mixed martial arts kind of in high school. So I quite enjoyed the close combat. I just didn't enjoy the weapon side of it as much. Quite intimidating. That, like, the initial day where you get given the rifle, you have to learn how to like cock it back with one hand and you're trying to hold it in the other arm whilst aiming down range. And I was like, I'm just not strong enough. Like I don't have one, the desire to do it, but two, like I just didn't have the technique or the strength to do it. And then by the end of our range week, which is a whole week of just straight weapon drill and shooting it, you get a lot more confident, a lot more comfortable with it. And now it's fine. Like I'm happy to do it, but it's not my ultimate desire as to why I joined the Defence Force. Yeah. There's a lot of people that play games like online games, and there were a lot of them on our basic training, and they were like, oh, this is so much different to the game, but they joined the Defence Force because it was what they thought their game was going to be in real life, but it's a lot more different. It's not exactly, it takes a lot more toll on your mental thoughts, especially when you are aiming at a target that is shaped not like an animal or not like a pest or something. It's like it's shaped like a human being. Like it could be me at the end on the target rather than just a target.
So there was becoming a realization the army was real, and whether they were cutouts, they were going to be holding a gun as well. If it had push come to shove, you were starting to get the sense of what maybe this wasn't for you, I feel, or not.
I kind of always joked around, like in my section, I was like, don't worry guys, I'll be the human decoy. I'll get up and run the other way whilst you guys can do the army stuff. I'll just distract them all. Because I just knew that it wasn't something that I could do. But no, like my trade that I went into was logistics based. And if I was on the front line having to do the real heavy combat side of things, something's gone really, really wrong. So I kind of I got through basic training knowing that I wouldn't have to do it real life unless pretty much everything had gone to custard and we were not going to work as an army.
Yeah. So what you do, your 21 weeks, which is usually 16 weeks, what happens then? What is there a party? Is there a promotion? What happens?
Yeah, we had a graduation, which was really nice. Happened to be mid-July in Wairu. So mum and dad and I was only allowed 4 people because of COVID restrictions. So mum and dad came down and watched it, and then my siblings watched it as well in the room via live stream. And then we were allowed to go home that night for the night. And then we went out for dinner and had a lovely day the following day, and then had a timing to be back in Wairu before going to the bases. We chose camps that we wanted to go to if your trade had options. And then we just went to our camps like a week later.
Okay.
Yeah, to start our like job training.
Okay. So talk us through that. So, or can you, if you know, just give me a few examples of what you could have chosen for kids who were sitting there. You did logistics. What else is there they could have chosen?
So the logistics in Army is kind of different to Air Force. It's broken down a lot more. So Move Op's job is solely to move people and freight and equipment between different means. But then there's also suppliers, which is like the warehousing side of things and like buying things for the Army. There's truckies, and they just they drive trucks all day, every day. They're moving the freight. And then there's engineers, there's electrics, there's mechanics, then they've got like the actual combat trades. There's they're called we call them tankies, but I don't know. A QAMR, I think, is their regiment that they're under. And then there's like the infantry and gunners as well. So there's like the full combat trades, and then the engineers, which you've got plant ops, you've got building, you've got plumbers, electricians, and they're like to build things if we need to build a camp somewhere. And then the logistics pers, which will just move everything and order all the parts and provide all the logistics behind them. Yeah, so there's lots of different trades. There's some out of it ones.
Yeah. Once you've done your basic and you're now in logistics and someone's an engineer and a mechanic, are you saying the gun stuff ends? Because I'm thinking what you resonate with is a lot of kids who are sitting there, and that's the only reason they're not going is because there's a gun. And like you, they don't want to shoot someone. Is that what you're saying or not?
Yeah, you still have like your annual weapons qualification that you have to do. And then you can do like range shoots, which is like training shoots if you want to. And there is heaps of opportunity if weapons is your thing to continue and shoot weapons more regularly. But if it's not your thing, you can also just do your weapons qual, do it when you have to. When you need to get requal, do it then. But otherwise, you can pretty much not, you can avoid it. Yeah. I think I would have touched it maybe like 4 or 5 times for the qualifications, and that's it.
Okay. Well, it's good to know. I think there will be a
Yeah.
lot of kids who need to hear that. And equally, if you love guns, well, I suppose go and shoot your life away. That's brilliant. But there's a bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how was your actual training then for the logistics? What did you go through? What did you learn? Did you sit papers? Did you write? What process of learning did you go through?
So for move ops, they have their own training cell. We do 4 junior courses, which is quite a lot, but we move things via sea and air as well as roads. And then the last one is just controlling the movement. Um, so we did a stevedoring paper, which very strange. I did not see myself ever once working on a port, but I have the qualification to work on a port now.
Okay.
We did aerial delivery, which I don't know if you've seen Operation Christmas Drop. It's probably the closest thing I can relate to aerial delivery. It's all the loads that are rigged up and then they parachute down the back, out the back of a Herc or out the back of an aircraft. So that's really fun. That's not something that I, again, ever saw myself doing. We do movement control, which is controlling movement. And then we also do a terminal course, which is setting up like an airport terminal, but where there is no infrastructure. Or if there's very little infrastructure, we learn how to maximize that infrastructure to have a viable terminal operating. And it could be either on a port or on an airbase or a railhead. If there's a railway that we can utilize, we can set up a terminal on the side of that, or just normal roads.
So
Yeah.
hypothetically, Taylor, something happens in Papua New Guinea, they ask for help. One of the first things the
Mm.
army would do, come to you and go, look, there's no airport where we're going. You guys might look at maps. You might go, well, we can see a place to let what we're going to need is, and this is the aircraft we're going to fly, and this is the weight. Is that slightly right?
Yeah, those like bigger questions are usually done out of the headquarters. That's more out of our control. But then they'll delegate it down to us and be like, okay, this is our plan, make it happen. And then
Okay.
that's when we'll do what we can with that plan to set it up here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before we go too far, how long did you spend in the army before you transferred to the Air Force?
I would have spent close to 4 years. I transferred across
Oh,
at 4 years and 9 months. Oh, 5 years, sorry. 4 years and 9 months is how long I spent in
okay.
the army.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
so we've
so it's
still got
quite
more to
close.
talk about then.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was
Okay.
there for quite a while.
Yeah. So yeah, will you lead us through then? What were those next sort of, what was it, about 3 years? You've got your initial training. Then what are you doing in there for your, that's a long time. I mean, that's longer than most degrees. What else is happening? And there's also these experiences you had that what you and I have discussed that you've got feelings around and things. So
Yeah. Um, my initial training, it's supposed to take a year, but ours was dragged out over 2 years because we kept going back and forth from the isolation hotels. So
uh,
the army got put in to do the managed isolation facilities for about 2 years. And it was 6 weeks on, pretty much 6 weeks off, go again. It was just a constant rotation of going up to Auckland or going to Rotorua or Hamilton and then coming back to Palmy for 6 weeks and then going back again. So there wasn't a huge amount of time to do the courses in between. Yeah, the managed isolation facilities definitely messed with our timeline a lot. But yeah, that not much we could do about it. Um, I ended up going to Antarctica in I think 2022, to do a ship offload on the American McMurdo base, which was quite fun. Definitely, again, not something I ever saw myself doing. Unloading a container ship, definitely take my hats off to those people because those containers are very heavy. And there's a lot of work involved. But that was quite fun, quite a unique experience. I don't think there's many other places where you could get an opportunity to do something like that. But otherwise, there's always training exercises going on, and the officer cadet school, they go overseas once or twice a year for their training, and move ops will facilitate their movement to and from. Any unit that is doing any kind of exercise, we also facilitate their movement. So our day-to-day job is quite busy. Like, there's always something to do, and if there's nothing to do, then it was just training, reinforcing what we learned on course, and learning other little bits and bobs along the way, because they teach you as much as they can on course, but that's on paper. That's the theory side of things. Practically, it doesn't always work that way. Like, it's a good idea on paper, but in person you can learn other little tips and tricks on how to do it better. So that's the 3 years I spent doing that.
Do you feel that is there a job at the end of it you're called something? Like, I'm a logistics and what is it that you're qualified for? Are you not qualified for anything other than your job?
No, I just am a movements operator at the end of the day. There's no, like, civic qualifications don't really line up to our job. I think when they were trying to find our like pay scale replica on Civvy Street, they aligned us to like a baggage handler at an airport, which a baggage handler doesn't unload container ships or rig up aerial loads to get dropped out the back of a plane. So there's no real like civvy equivalent to our job. But I think that's what I loved most about it, was that it was so different. There was so many different things. One day you'd be rigging up a load to drop out of the back of the hook. The next day you were doing something completely different, sending someone overseas. And then, the variety was good. Whilst it doesn't relate straight to Civvy Street, it was fun.
Yeah. Can I bring Grace in? I don't normally do. Grace, as a young woman, does any of this resonate with you if you'd been sitting at school after hearing Taylor?
Yeah, and we've talked about it before, Taylor. Like, I also looked at the Defence Force when I was in school, because it was the only thing I found that was very clear as to what you could do. Like, when you looked at all the unis, to me, it didn't seem as straightforward. Whereas the defence, all the things you said, I remember sitting in class looking at it. I was like, and now we need a Navy person too, Ludlam. I think like your story about Antarctica, if you're someone who's interested in traveling or learning about different ways of people, even unloading shipping containers, like, that's high stakes, because if a shipping container falls, it's at the bottom of the ocean, like, you're not getting that back. So there's heaps of exciting things that would resonate with me. And if I'm sat in a classroom and I don't know what I want to do, it sounds like the defense is somewhere where you're going to see it all, and you're going to meet lots of different people. And so even if that's not where you want to end up, like, the stories you've got from those 3 years, I know we just truncated it into a few sentences, but I mean, those are great stories that you wouldn't get if you were sitting at Vic University unsure what you want to do. Like, I love how you said you didn't know what you wanted to do and you didn't want to go study, so you've gone and done this. And it's just life experience you talked about. I mean, you couldn't beat it. I was going nowhere near Antarctica for my work at like age 21, 22, or whenever you went. It's and I do have a question though, Taylor, is like, in terms of lifestyle, I mean, I'm someone who's more unpredictable. How much freedom do you get in this lifestyle? Like, you mentioned that one night you got to go home to celebrate graduation. Again, I'm like, one night? What the heck? But what does that look like? Like, how often did you get to go home in the Army and in the Air Force? Like, what does that side of things look like?
As a move op, it was quite hard to plan anything. I feel like majority of move ops, you put in leave to do something and you buy tickets, and you've pretty much just jinxed yourself to get retasked that same time. So you were like, oh, I'll do it last minute so I don't get retasked. It is quite hard. If you plan like a big chunk of leave, then they're usually pretty good and they'll try to keep your leave balances down. But the Defence Force definitely takes priority over leave at the end of the day. When I went down to Antarctica, we left like beginning of January to go into isolation for 2 weeks before going down to Antarctica. And that was like a week after New Year's. And I was like, I haven't had a break all year. Like I've just been back and forth from course and the isolation hotels. I just want to like just be at home for 2 or 3 weeks. And they were like, nope, you got to go again. And I was like, right, sorry, bye mom, bye dad. I'll see you again in like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But there is like definitely opportunity to go home. It varies on what's needed and what's not.
And that's great, right? These are the things we like to call out because that's not good or bad. But if you're someone who's a real homebody or someone who doesn't want to be so locked in, this is not for you. Like that's the one part I'm hearing that I would not be about is being told, oh, in a week's time, you're locking down and then we're going to Antarctica, right? Like if that's something that brings you anxiety or stress, the Defence Force is not for you.
Definitely not.
Grace is like a feral cat.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah.
I have plans. So yeah, no, Grace has hit the nail on the head in terms of that getting away, that leave issue will be something kids that may either resonate with them or not. But what's life like on the base? Because that's the next thing. There'll be just some kids going, what's this base like? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What's my room like? What's the culture, the atmosphere like? Because you're going to your workplace to live, which is different.
Yeah, it definitely is. You get put in barracks as soon as you move to a new camp or base, you get put in the barracks. There's usually like communal toilets, communal showers. There's a communal common room with like a jug or like a tap and a sink, but there's no cooking facilities, so you can't cook. But they do provide a mess. So you get the mess food, which you either love it or you hate it. I definitely don't vibe with it all the time. I much prefer to cook my own food. But there's a gym on base. There's a gym on every camp and base. There's a bar that you can go to like to socialize on the weekdays and weekends. I think they're closed like 2 days a week or something, but they have cheap drinks. So it's a really good way to make friends like when you're first getting to camp, because you don't really know anyone other than the people on your basic training. So then it's really hard to like make friends and extend your little circle. But I would say if you're somebody that quite likes other people around all the time and you don't really need your alone time as much and you're happy just having your room, you don't want to cook, you don't want to clean, you don't want to have to mow your own lawns or do any of like the normal adulting chores, barracks is great. That wasn't really for me. So I left the barracks pretty much as soon as I could. I think I was there for maybe 5 months and then I went and moved into a flat, which was so much better. I enjoyed the drive home from work so that I could like decompress, leave everything before I got in the door, and it was so much nicer. And then you just have like more things that you can do. Like you can cook your own dinner, you can choose what you want to eat, you can mow your lawns on the weekend so that you feel like you're doing something, rather than just sitting in a room, because it can be quite boring. I'm in barracks currently because I'm on course in Woodburn, and it's very different going from having like responsibility and living in a house and contributing to a household compared to moving here and I don't have anything to do after work.
Yeah.
Did
this process, Taylor, because I don't want to patronize you. It sounded like the picture you painted when you arrived, you were a fish out of water. There was this little girl who arrived and there was a gun and you went, what the hell have I done?
I sure was.
Though, did you at some point in time think, I've grown up here, I've hardened, and I'm, if I took the little girl issue, I've turned into a strong lady. I've grown. Is that how you felt?
Yeah, I think maybe like year 2 when I was on my like 8th rotation in the isolation hotels. I'd been security so often and I was so over it. I called my mum and I was like, Mum, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Like, why'd you let me join? And I was pretty much just like questioning everything. And then I think it was like a week later and I was like, actually, you know what? I've just had like 5 years of life experience crammed down into 2 years life experience. And I am so grateful for that opportunity. It's amazing. I yeah, it was my perspective, I think, that initially got me questioning why I did everything. And then I was like, actually, everything happens for a reason. And I just need to flip my perspective on it. And then, yeah, that's when I realized, yeah, this is how much I've grown. This is how much I've achieved. This is what I've done. On paper, it doesn't look like a huge amount, but internally, I know that it's a huge amount.
But also,
Yeah.
just wanted to add there, Ludlam, a call out and hearing you say it, Taylor, is because we've interviewed a lot of people who went straight to uni, like I did the same thing. And in that second year of uni, you're still organizing the red cards and the parties and the this, and that responsibility you talk about is not there. Like
Yeah.
you're looking after yourself. Maybe you're an RA, but if someone's listening who goes, they feel like they're ready to have the responsibility and have what you said of like, you weren't just looking after yourself, you really had to step up. And I'm just putting in parallel Ludlam to other people, 19-year-olds. I'm assuming you're at that 19, 20. If you're someone in high school,
Yeah.
I see myself as an adult, like I want to get straight in there and be in the workforce and be in that, then the Defence Force really is for you, because there's no time to handhold and treat you like you're the newbie. You get that in your 21 weeks of training, and then it's like, okay, contribute, you're a part of this, as opposed to your uni or your other paths you go where you can be a little kid for a bit longer, respectfully, but that's how you can do it. You didn't get that time, like that's not a part of your journey.
No, and I don't think I ever would have. Maybe that's also why I didn't want to go to uni, because I don't think I ever saw myself as being somebody that would super love to go to parties constantly, and I didn't want to take care of myself. Like I had younger siblings. I always contributed heaps to helping raise them. So I think I always wanted that responsibility, and then I couldn't wait to grow up so I could have more responsibility and be in control of everything. I was like, oh, I can't wait to be an adult.
Yeah.
Not so much now. I wish I could go back, but
So how do you, touching on what Grace just said, then so you go to uni, so social life's at least 50%, if not 80%. What's your social life been? So you're in there almost 5 years. Did your percentage of social life grow? Did you spark up, did you still have relationships? And so did you party? How did it work socially for you?
Yeah, like there's always opportunities to drink. There's plenty of people in barracks that will go to the bar because it's relatively cheap. They go Friday, Saturday, they go to town. But I was posted to Palmerston North, so town wasn't really my kind of vibe, to say the least. I wasn't too keen on that. I think I went maybe like once in my first year, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to go again, kind of thing. I will say that first year that I got off basic training and posted to Palmy, I went home maybe 2 weekends every month just because I didn't want to be in barracks. People would come knocking on your door and they'll be like, oh, come on, come drink with us. And I was like, oh, maybe giving it a miss this weekend. I'm going home, sorry. And that was my way of dealing with it. But once I moved into the flat, I still socialize during work time. Like friends and work were great, but outside of work, I think I definitely was more independent. I quite liked my alone time. So I was quite happy in the flat by myself, and I would find things to do on the weekends, but I don't mind being alone when I do those things. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's definitely lots of opportunity.
Yeah. So look, I'm probably putting on my my father hat, my teacher hat. How did you find the culture? Did it live up to expectation? Because when I see an industry that goes, I don't have many females, what do I do about it? How did that work? Did you feel slightly, because I mean, any industry where you're, what did I say, 15%, like if 10 people are lined up, there's lucky to be one of you there. How did that culture shift? Because that ain't like school unless you went to well, no, you wouldn't go to an all boys school, would you? Yeah. So that would have been foreign. And I know, what happened and what are your feelings and feedback on that?
I would say that one of my first friends was a female, but then my second best friend was a dude, and it was great. Like, I never wanted to be a part of the little boys club that was there. I was quite happy on the outskirts. I didn't really want to be involved or need to be involved, but there definitely is the boys club culture still. In the move up trade, it's getting a lot better. There's a lot more females that are going into it because it isn't a combat trade, it is a logistics role. And we have a lot of opportunity to travel within our job. So it really appeals to a lot of young females. So it's a lot better. It definitely is a lot better. I think if I had have gone into a combat trade as a female, I would have struggled an awful lot because there is very few. There's maybe 3 in the infantry corps at the moment. There's not many at all. So I think I wouldn't be able to have coped in a situation like that. But even going to the bar on a Friday night when I was in barracks, you would be on the minority as a female, and then you would have a lot of male attention, and it was like flattering. Yes, don't get me wrong, it's always nice to have somebody tell you that you look nice, but at the same time it was very off-putting, and you're like, oh, I'm kind of good, I would like to go home and be by myself. I didn't need you to tell me that. I'm quite happy. And it's just finding a way to not hurt somebody's feelings, but also definitely drawing a firm line that I probably learned the fastest.
So you strike me now as when you arrive, you're suddenly got the shock with guns. You're also a person who doesn't need this inundation of male culture on you because you're quite comfortable in your own skin, whereas someone else might go and go, wicked, there's 10 guys who will chase me and that's all wonderful. That was a part of it that doesn't resonate with you at all, and you had difficulty with it.
No, you learn very fast how to deal with it. There definitely is some people, and they will happily have more guy friends in the unit than they will girlfriends, and they just get along with guys a lot better. And like, hats off to them. But I am definitely a little bit more of a girl's girl. I like my girls around me. I will have like a couple of guy friends, but I'm not going to go over and above to try and make friends with males over females. I guess I learned that the fastest.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what came about at some point in time, because this is quite rare, you decided, I'm in the army, I've done 4 years, 9 months, whatever it is. I want to go somewhere else. Can you expand on why? And then once you've gone, look, this is the reason, whatever you want to explain. And then what was that transition like? Maybe we'll talk about that after that bit there. So why move?
So I ended up having some unwanted attention, and I put in a complaint against it. And the complaint didn't go as planned, and I had a lot of opportunities taken away from me because of it. I felt like at that time there was nowhere for me to go. Everything was being halted. I couldn't progress in my career to get any pay rises, and I was kind of just stuck. And I started contemplating civilistry. I started to think, oh, maybe it's time to leave the Defence Force and go do something else. At the time, I did a project management certificate, just a level 4 on the side. I just was like, oh yeah, I'll do that to see if I do enjoy studying again. And I was like, oh, well, maybe once I get the certificate, like, I'll just go to civilistry and I'll just become a junior project manager, and I'll just find a new career path. I'm only 22. I don't mind. Like, it's not too late to start a new career. And then somebody mentioned, oh, why don't you service change? There's a couple of move ups that have already service changed into Air Force. They're quite similar jobs, and you might like it a whole lot more over there. And so then, I wrote up a little minute and I sent it away, and it got accepted real fast. They're like, yep, we'll take you on. And it's been a pretty fast like ride since then, but it didn't take long at all for me to progress across. It's not the same for everybody. There's a couple of other people that I know that have also put in minutes, and theirs have been denied only because financially they can't afford to take them across. We had quite severe budget cuts before we got our little top up from the government like a couple of months ago. So they got denied, but they got told to reapply once the budgets have, like the financial year's done its course. And so then they'll reapply then. So theirs will be like a year, whereas mine was like 4 months to come across, which sucks for them, but I'm grateful mine was so fast.
So
Yeah.
a move across, are you saying to Blenheim? No.
Oh, just laterally from Army to
Oh.
Air Force. Yeah.
Is it a location change or not?
So I moved from Linton Camp to Ohakia Air Base, which is like an hour in distance, but they're both like 20 minutes from Palmy.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And how long have you been in the Air Force?
I officially turned Air Force in November last year. So not long, not even a year yet.
Yeah.
Quick surface level question. Taylor, the uniforms. So now do you get 2 uniforms? You have to give the Army one back? Like, is that in your closet? Like, what's happening there?
So Army and Air Force actually have the same everyday uniform.
Oh,
their parade uniform is different, so I did have to hand that back along with like my field pack and my sleeping bag and like tent and everything. But I was kind of glad to see all of that go. I didn't really, I had to hand all that back, but everything else kind of just remained the same, to be honest.
Well, I can imagine that was a nice, and I'm sorry to hear it, that it was an unfortunate reason that you made the change, right? But to actually have that almost like ceremonial handing back, like, I'm done with you, I've learned it, despite what sounds like, really unfortunate situation, you clearly had some really cool relationships within the Army that were like, hey, a minute, which I'm assuming a minute is like a little email. Is that the Army code for email?
Yeah, a minute's like a formal request that's supposed to be read in a minute. So it's like everything that you want put into like a really short format, and then they can quickly like browse over it and know what I want from it. So it's like a formal request.
Okay, cool. So you sent this minute because there had been some people before you that had done that change. And so I just wanted to highlight that and shout out to whoever those people were that were like, you don't have to completely go back to civilian life. You can make that minute. I like the minute change and swap over. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, because you have raised a really good thing, as far as I'm concerned, Taylor, as say teachers encouraging kids into the workforce or into study, because I've heard similar stories of kids going into hostels and not having a great situation where something's happened, a run-in, even just friends break up, boyfriends, whatever it is, whatever happens. But in your situation, it's an employment one, and kids do leave school and walk straight, and my son did, straight into employment. And suddenly it's a contractual thing that you sign, and you've got responsibilities, but so do they. And I'm not sure many kids actually understand, one, their rights, two, what they're signing, and would know what to do when shit hits the fan, if shit hits the fan. And it concerns me a little bit, mate. We used to do something a long time ago, I remember teaching, and we did like a careers unit, but very legal based. And kids were quite fascinated with, you mean that's what I'm supposed to do? And if they say it's 4 weeks annual leave, what does that mean? What if I only take 3? If I have a complaint and my complaint is about whatever, like for me, say it was a boss, where do I go? Because aren't they the boss? And so I think you raised for me, there is a thing Grace and I might touch on where I'm looking in the background to maybe even an employment lawyer, just to give us some hints and suggestions for kids leaving school to go, right, what would we tell them and what would they look out for and where would they go? Because suddenly you're a kid at home in a school, semi doing what you like.
Yeah.
Now it's different. And you can do some serious things wrong, and so can others. So I just want to put a shout out to that. And
I all the time will call mum and dad and I'll be like, pause, I need an adult premium advice right now. I only have adult subscription. I need the premium one. What would you do in this situation? Because I have still no idea. Like, I'm still only 23. There's still so much for me to learn. And if I can gain knowledge from them and like what they know and what they've experienced, if they can pass that on to me, I'll 100% tap into that whenever I can.
Yeah. Well, you're lucky you've got mum and dad to do that with. So, because not all of us can also ring a lawyer and go, what about this? And yeah, it's a world that we need to touch on a little bit. And thank you for raising it. That even if it was there was something uncomfortable, later complaint, but it has meant you moving.
Yeah.
How did the army react to you leaving? Was that all good, or is that seen as a little bit of a oh bugger, we've lost one situation? Or
I honestly thought that when I went across, because there's kind of like this beef between Army and Air Force, because Army, they have it tougher, right? They don't stay in hotels like Air Force do, they stay in the field and they do a lot more of the combat side of things. So they have like this little, I guess you could say it's tall poppy syndrome, where they're like, oh, we have beef with the Air Force because they just have it so good compared to us. So I kind of expected that when I went across. I was like, oh, so you're just leaving us for the better side. And I was kind of waiting for it. But no, everybody was quite supportive actually. When I actually said that I was moving across, they were like, you know what, that's the best move for you. Like, we're really happy for you. We're glad that you're getting out of this place. And I, yeah, don't think I get like the odd banterish thing now. My flatmates are still Army and they'll be like, oh, how's the Air Force? What's the biggest problem you had today? And it'll be like a little bantery, like a little pick. And I'll be like, you know what? It's actually great on this side. You should come across.
yeah,
But yeah, it's all fun. There's nothing, I never received any kind of backlash for coming across. It was great.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, you've done now what 6 years in the Defence Force, in a
Yeah,
sense.
like 5.5, 6-ish years. Yeah.
Yeah. As a young female, and I mentioned earlier the disparity they're working on and they're trying to promote themselves. I mean, I'm thinking you in 5 or 10 years' time, if you're still there, and I'll ask you about your future soon, might be in a position where you're coming up with strategies or are being, your employer will come to you and go, right, as one of the minorities, what can we do better? Or how do
Yeah.
we support them better? Are there things already that you see, or is it all absolutely fine before a young 17-year-old you flies into the Army or the Air Force or the Navy?
I think it's getting a lot better. There's a lot more people that are joining fresh out of school. There's a lot of young females, I would say, like the basic training and recruit course trainings, they're still definitely more male dominated than they are female dominated. But there is a lot more females coming through, which is quite nice to see, to be honest. Um, yeah, I honestly didn't know about half the Army female engagement plans that you mentioned. I didn't know that they even existed, which is probably quite poor that people in the Defence Force, especially females in the Defence Force, didn't know about them. But yeah, I think it's just word of mouth, and a lot of females will have a lot of guard up, like a lot of walls up in regards to the Defence Force because of it being so highly male dominated. But it is definitely getting better. There's a lot more 50-50 workplaces. The logistics roles in the Air Force, they're 50-50. It's a lot better, yeah.
What about in the hierarchy? Because I'm thinking, like a lot of industries, you need someone at the table with
Yeah.
the female perspective. Is the hierarchy still, is it dominated by the people making the decisions? Are
Mm.
they generally male?
In the Army, they're definitely majority male, I would say. There's not as many females, but Air Force, there's definitely a lot more females. There's a lot more
Right.
female officers as well coming through. So they have a lot of input as well, and they're usually relatively young. So they've got like the drive and the energy behind them to push things to actually get things across the line, which is nice. So Air Force definitely have a lot more female rank involved, but Army, there's definitely a very big gap, I would say, between females and males in the hierarchy positions.
And you're just
Yeah.
stating a fact. I mean, that's something for them to work on, because without that voice, it's
Yeah.
like a multi voice, it's a youthful voice, somewhat, you just need voices, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you see your future now? Is this a career that you can stay there forever, or is it something you get and then you go work for Air New Zealand, or like what happens?
Yeah. I'm kind of taking it as it comes currently because I don't really know what to expect when I came across. So I'm kind of taking it as it comes. I have a year return of service from the current course that I'm doing, so I will definitely be in for at least another year, until December next year. But after that, I'm in two minds whether I take a couple of years of leave without pay. I can apply for leave without pay and then just go live abroad and do something completely different. I don't know, wait tables in a cafe just to do something completely different. Or there's also a DT scheme that I am contemplating where the Defence Force will pay for my degree and I will be paid to study full time. And then I just have the return of service equivalent for each year that I do. So, yeah, I'm in two minds as to what I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
that's
can you touch on, because we did with Brianna, what was your starting pay and what's happened to it while you've been getting qualified? And then those perks you just said, that sounds like, so you do a 4-year degree, as long as you do 4 years service, you've paid it off. Particularly if you like your job, that seems like a gold mine. So yeah, what sort of money ranges have you been playing with?
So I started on 48,000 salary every year. And then once I finished basic training, it jumped up to 50, I believe. And then it remained at 50 for the next 2 years because MIFS meant that I didn't complete my courses fast. So then I was delayed in like getting a pay rise. But after that, I think we all got, because during MIFS, everybody left. There was so many people that decided to leave the Defence Force. The Defence Force is extremely low in numbers. There's I think the army lost nearly 4,000 people or something ridiculous. And then to help with that, they decided to jump up everybody's pay and they reevaluated the civilian pay scales compared to the military ones. And they found that the military ones were extremely low compared to the civvy ones. So then I think every job went up close to 10K in salary. So I jumped up to maybe like just under 60 or just over 60. And then I got promoted as a move up to Lance Corporal before I swapped across. So then I jumped up to 77. And then when I came across to Air Force, I was pay protected for my old rank. So I've remained on 77 since then. So I'm on really good money for, yeah.
Are you living in a, now that you're over with the Air Force, are you living on base?
No, so I still have the same place in Palmy that I was living in when I was working out of Linton, but it's the same time to drive to Linton as it was to Ohakia, so I still have the same place. Yeah, I don't have to move back into barracks, but if you wanted to, you definitely could. Yeah.
Because Taylor, question, and I know we'll wrap up soon, but like when you came across, did you have to do any basic Air Force training again?
No.
Or did you just said what's up and you were straight in there?
Yeah, because the Air Force recruit course in the Army Basic is very detail orientated, but Army does a lot more combat than Air Force. All of the Army skills translated directly across to the Air Force ones and then some. So I didn't have to redo the recruit course.
Oh,
but if it was the other way where you wanted to go from Air Force to Army, you would have to do the Army Basic.
Cool. Right. Okay. That's a good point. That's awesome. That's good to know.
Yeah.
You would have put a shout out, like, if it had been back in the old days and I brought you back into my classroom and there were these kids staring at you going, should I go, should I not? What would you say to them now in terms of your, you are an advocate for the Defence Force. I mean, I know when we talked on the phone, you could mention one or two things you didn't enjoy, but you made it really clear to me, this is something I'm really sort of, enthusiastic about. So, put a shout out to what you think for kids.
Yeah, 100%. If you don't know what you want to study, if you don't know what you want to do with a career, 100% join the Defence Force. Any of the services, I would say, you grow so much as a person. You learn so much about yourself that you had no idea about before. You're quite protected in school, and you're still protected in the Defence Force to a degree, but you're also definitely left to be an adult at the same time. If you are confused in any way, shape, or form, I would 100% recommend it. There is so many opportunities. You can swap between trades. You can get apprenticeships and be paid like relatively well for your apprenticeships. you do so many cool things, so many experiences that you wouldn't be able to do anywhere else. I'm so grateful for like some of the randomest things that I never thought I'd be doing, but I'm so happy to say, yeah, I can do that. Yep, I did that. That's really cool. Yeah, I would 100% recommend it. Yeah.
God, that's really good to hear. And who would have thought it would have started with a horse?
Yeah.
I want to be the horse looker after her. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Taylor, there's no horses. Like, that's the sort of stuff Grace would have done.
I'm waiting. I'm like, well, there has to be horses somewhere. Like one day you're going to come across the horse.
I'll bring them back.
Yeah, just stay tuned. Before you say because he's got some wise words, I just know it, Taylor. The question we always like to ask at the end is if you could go back to you, like Taylor to Taylor, year 12, 13-ish, what advice would you give yourself specifically?
Oh, that's a really good question. Probably don't lose the confidence that comes with being naive, but lose a little bit of the naivety. Not everything is exactly how it's like sold to you. Not everyone is the same as what they say to you up front. Yeah, a lot of people are like, they'll treat you a certain way, but then behind your back will say a different thing, or how do I word it? You're very confident when you're naive, but then you can also get yourself into situations that you didn't know you wanted to be in. Yeah.
I really like that, Taylor. Like, I don't know if you've heard that somewhere in it, but don't lose the confidence of naivety, but lose some of the naivety. I think that's really great. Like,
yeah.
Put that on a calendar.
Yeah. Yeah. And your reputation is everything. You have no idea who's listening to you. But if you're having a bad day, you can say something, you don't really mean it, you're just in a bad mood or whatever. And it happens all the time where somebody will say something and you have no idea who's listening to you. And then it's really hard to rebuild your reputation. It's really easy to break it though.
Well, wise.
Yeah.
Thanks, Taylor, because I know, like I say, you initially said, oh, no, I don't think I can participate, and you went away and you've reflected, and I think you're going to be a wonderful advocate moving forward for the Defence Force, and I hope you are. I hope, in fact, we get a young girl reach out and I can give her, get hold of you and go, look, we've got someone who wants to ask a few questions, because I think they need people like you to be more than just in there, but someone who has a voice, someone who can maybe, chat to them and that. And it's interesting, as you two talked, Grace, and there was the school to the real world. I drew this diagram, school to real world, because you talked about this naivety, and university, in a sense, chugs you along before you get to it. Whereas to me, you were just thrust into a very real, like even more real than the world I've ever lived in. It's a world where it's on you, there's expectations, there might be a boys' club, there aren't any horses. It's a different world, and I admire the fact you stuck in there, because I think you could have easily have walked after a few weeks, because it did sound like fish out of the water stuff, but you've grown and you've got stronger and your career looks healthy, and your naivety to think it was going to be different. Well, now there is no excuse, because if someone listens to this, they'll get a clear picture. And that's all we ask for, Grace and I, is when someone goes to become something, whatever that job is, they just go in with their eyes wide open, and they do it for the right reason. So you've filled a real wicked gap. Thank you for chatting to us, and so good to catch up. Yeah, look, and thank you for your honesty on the phone. But
anytime.
Send and your sister's in Lincoln.
She is, yes, studying away to be a little agricultural scientist.
There you go.
You're back.
Yeah.
Send my regards.
I will. I definitely will.